Okay people, this is himself and welcome to another Tekken 7 Leroy Smith guide. In this video we're going to look at his parries. Leroy has 8 of these and I'm going to show you properties and setups. So the first one is back +2. This is active on the 3rd frame and it lasts until the 20th. And the good thing is that it parries any high or mid attack. Doesn't matter if it's an elbow or a headbutt or a weapon, he will deal with it. What makes it even stronger though is that it also handles rage arts. There's an odd few which are safe on block, so generally people can use them with a lot less risk, but not against Leroy. He can parry them and then punish. After a successful parry, you can hit 1 or 2 and this will do his chain punches. You get 40 damage and it's +7. But in certain situations you can actually get more damage. If the move you've parried has bad recovery, then you can wait for the parry to end and then launch with DF2 or worse. Now if the move has good recovery, then they can block. But is Leroy in danger? No, because the chain punches are -9 on block. The only bad thing is that you lose your turn. What's also good is that you can parry from hermit stance, and this is quite useful because the stance will auto parry lows. So what this does is it influences people to come in with mids and highs, but with a parry we've got those covered as well. Now I will be doing a detailed video on the hermit stance in the future, so if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe. Next parry is F3+4. The window on this is from the 20th to the 80th frame, but beyond that it's exactly the same as back +2. It parries the same sets of moves and it has the same follow-ups. You also have his taunt, 1+3+4, aka you got nothing. The parry window on this is from the 20th to the 100th frame, but just like the previous move, the properties are the same as back +2. As well as parries, Leroy also has Sabakis. These are moves that are attacks but they have parry windows built in. One of these is up forward 1. This is very similar to back +2, except that the parry window is from the 4th frame to the 13th, and the good thing is that it's -9 on block, so you're completely safe. But what's more important is that it's an up forward input. This means that when you block a move that forces you into crouch and you're at minus frames, you can throw this out and parry anyone trying to frame trap you. Next Sabaki, down back 1+2. The parry window on this is from the 4th to the 20th frame, and the good thing is that although it's -11, it has pushback, so it can be hard to punish. The trade off though is that it won't parry stuff like knees, elbows and shoulders. Third Sabaki, Hermit 1. This is active from the 3rd to the 12th frame, and if done right it does 34 damage, which is more than the original move. It also puts us at +28 guard frames, which means that almost anything is a frame trap. On top of that, the move is safe at -6, so it can be used to set up another parry. The only downside is that it doesn't parry knees and elbows. Fourth Sabaki, 1-2-1. Here the parry window is between the 2nd and 3rd hits, but it's really small. It's only from the 1st to the 7th frame and you have to delay it. Because of that, it's not something that I'd rely on, but if you do get it, the properties are exactly the same as back +2. Fifth Sabaki, 2-1-2. This is similar to 1-2-1 in that the parry window is between the 2nd and 3rd hits and you still have to delay it. Now having all these parries is all good, but what you really need to know is how to use them. The obvious way is when defending an attack. There's numerous strings in Tekken that end with a high or a mid, and often the high is safe and the mid is dangerous. But using a parry here will kill the mix up, and it means that they have to start doing other stuff or baiting you into parrying. Another method is using the parries offensively, and this is what I really want to talk about. Seeing as the Sabakis are active from the 3rd or the 4th frame, we can set them up after moves that are -6 or -7 on block, and this is viable because at those types of frames, sidestepping for us can be risky, so they are more likely to attack, but really that's what we want them to do. Probably one of the best setups is after all the hermit stance transitions. DF4, DF14, while standing 1-4 and F+2-3-4 all put him at -6, so back +2 will parry anything from 10 frames to 26 frames. And the thing is, people do attack here. There's numerous stance transitions in Tekken that are negative on block, and people try to make use of those frames, but if they do that here, they run straight into a trap. An extra layer to this is parrying after certain stance moves. Hermit 4 is -7 on block, but it keeps him in stance, so back +2 is an option. What we can also do is use Hermit 1. As I mentioned earlier, this is a parry window from the 3rd to the 12th frame, so after I blocked Hermit 4, it will handle anything from 10 to 19 frames. But there's more. Hermit 1 itself is only -6, so you can set up forward 1 or down back 1+2. The back fist will parry moves from 10 to 18 frames, and the other will go up to 26. Next setup is after 2-2. On block this is -7, so back +2 is an option. But what makes this interesting is that this move is also his 12 frame punisher. So it means that even if you mess up in this department, you can still stop the opponent gaining momentum, and that makes this super good. Now I actually did a video covering all of Leroy's punishers, so if you want to see that, there's a card in the corner and a link in the description. Next setup is down 1+2. Now this isn't -6 or -7 like the other moves, it's actually 0, but what makes it viable is that it forces them into crouch, and when that happens, people can't resist doing while standing 4, they think it's their best option. But if they do that, a parry can easily screw them over, and that makes this move even stronger. Next setup is up 4-3. Like down 1+2, this isn't -6 or -7, it's actually -8, and that means that back +2 won't parry 10 frame jabs. But when people block a jumping move, they often think it's -12 or -13, so they try to punish it, and when they do that, back +2 will parry them. Next setup is a little different. It's DF314. This move is a little risky because the last hit is -18, but people often don't block it because they're scared of the chunky mid, and it only does 7 points of damage anyway. They also think that after this low, they can attack even if they get hit, and that's because that's how it is with most lows. But if they do that, a parry can catch them and they're screwed again. The only danger is that the one in this string is a high and it doesn't jail, so if they're smart, they'll duck and interrupt you. It's a similar kind of story with down back 4. This puts you at -3 on hit and we're both crouching, so normally people use while standing 4, but what we can do is use up forward 1 to parry and screw them over. Last two setups I have are back +1 and back 1+2. These are both fast, short range moves, so they're only really useful near the wall. But on block they're -6 and -5 respectively, so parries are still viable. Now there's a load of other setups out there, but I'm sure you get the idea. The next thing you should do is check out my Leroy playlist and make sure you subscribe because I've got more videos in the pipeline. Also, make sure you follow me on Twitter. There's numerous short clips that I upload that don't get a full video and you might be missing out on something.